Return.
Hey, welcome to One More Rep with Coach Walker. I'm your host, Coach Walker, and today we are talking about ACL Return to Play as it pertains to the program that I've built here over the last 7, almost 8 months. So ACL Return to Play looks different in a lot of different situations based upon your background, your training, all the different things, your exposure to strength and conditioning, personal training versus if you actually have a background or you've learned some different things about injury prevention, injury rehab, and things of that nature. So from my background personally, I have worked in tandem with athletic trainers, physical therapists, physical therapy techs over the years, and I've learned a lot from them, as well as doing my own research, my own studying on my own leisure time or whatever that may look like. So the way I built this program, it wasn't even something I set out to do. It was basically the physical therapist here. She really wanted to get her athletes into what they were calling a gap program, that space between where physical therapy ends and you are cleared, but you're not ready to go back to your sport. So what happens in that space? And so that's where I came in once I took this position. Just to give you a sign, I've done ACL Return to Play prior to this, especially early on in COVID. Had at least one guy that I got back on the field ready to go back to collegiate football. But looking at how I built this program specifically, I initially received a protocol from the clinic, the facility here, OrthoSensi, and it's their ACL reconstruction post-op protocol. So that lays the foundation for everything that I do. So I base it upon from 0 weeks out to about right now 6 months. And some of my players, some of my athletes, they get beyond that once they get into the sports performance. But we're looking at that reconstruction protocol, that post-op protocol, that lays the foundation. So I map it out, what I'm going to be doing from weeks about 9 on, because that's when I'm getting athletes. I'm getting athletes between the weeks of 9 and 12. The earliest I've received someone is 8, and the latest I've received someone is at about weeks 26, 27, and they came from a different clinic. So with that protocol starting at about weeks 9 to 12, I know that there's no jumping involved. Everything is primarily from a impact standpoint is going to be bilateral. It's not anything that's going to be too plyometric that's going to be going on in that time frame. So a lot of what I do is going to be ground based. We're going to be doing a lot of core work just to build that stability. We're going to be doing a lot of mobility exercises, and we're going to be doing some base level strength training depending on the actual athlete, depending on where they are and what feedback I get from the PT and the physical and the doctor, the surgeon. They may start out a little bit higher level because some kids are going to come in and their foundation is going to be just a lot higher because their training age might be higher, and just structurally they might just be a lot more sound than another kid who doesn't have the same genetic makeup and they just don't have the same training background. So, but primarily we are going to be ground based, 2 feet for a lot of things that we're going to be doing. Single leg kickstand type of stances like stagger stance might be our first progression that we're going to go into. And it's going to be dumbbells, kettlebells, medicine balls, resistance bands, especially mini hip circle bands, to where we're going to be doing a lot of hip work, a lot of calf work to where we strengthen above and below, getting the quad strong, things like that. It's going to be a lot of your foundational movements when it comes to strength and conditioning, not dumbbell deadlifts. Yes, we'll be doing some squatting, but primarily I don't do a ton of back squats unless I know what that happens later on. But early on, goblet squat is going to be our friend. As we progress, we look at what the needs of we look at the total athlete, the total client, and we want to look at what it's going to take to get full recovery. So we always build that in. So once you reach me, strength and conditioning coach level of your return to play, we're no longer just isolated to just the one limb. We don't have a prescription to say we're just taking care of the knee, making above and below, making sure just above and below is structurally sound to where you can go on about your life. That was physical therapy. Now I'm total body. I am bicep curls. I am snatch, some level of snatches. I am all different types of movements. I am not just one bag of tricks of what the movement patterns are going to be. We're going to move in all different planes within reason as we progress from week 9 up to 6 months out to get you cleared for return to play. So whatever I can think of that's going to be safe for you is going to be built into that program. The reason I say whatever I can think of is because the way I approach it, I don't just think squat, bench, deadlift, bicep curl. Those are in the program, but I do different types of movements from different types of positions to where we're going to be doing a half kneeling press, single arm press overhead. We may be doing press where you're on your back and everything is off the ground except your back and you're just pressing with one arm. Whatever it looks like is going to be dynamic, is going to challenge you to move differently than what you did before you came in here, because my goal is not to make you as good as you were. You need to leave here better, because now you've sustained a traumatic injury. So I need to make sure that we strengthen the hamstrings, the quads, the hips, and the calves. Get that whole structure solid and can completely stronger than what it was before. Get that balance between quad and hamstring strength back to a 2-to-1. Get the core strong so you can brace the right way. Get the upper body strong so you can withstand impact, because I am getting a lot of soccer players, a couple of football players, basketball players. Those are main sports I'm seeing right now. I have a baseball player right now. And the thing that can kind of backtracking real quick, the thing that I'm seeing, a lot of injuries that I'm getting, these ACLs that are coming in, they're between the ages of 11 and 14. So what we know is, from a prevention standpoint, kids aren't going outside and just playing anymore. So pro tip for you to help your kid, your athletes, minimize their risk of ACL injuries: make them let them go outside and play. Run, jump, sprint some more, squat down, lunge, climb, jump out of trees, whatever it looks like. Get them outside and let them play, because those movement patterns are things that generations before them did a lot more of, and they did a lot less sitting. So you're going to get that tensile strength, you get the musculature, your body's going to get that feel of movement in space, and you're going to be more resilient and less injury prone once you actually get into a sport. Because in your sport, you're only doing the movement patterns that are going to benefit you in that sport. So there are going to be weaknesses built into what that training for the sport is going to look like. If you have a more dynamic lifestyle of being a kid, let them be a kid, and you minimize the risk of these injuries. So getting back to what the training looks like is going to be dynamic. Use your bands, use your boxes, not so much to always jump on, but do different type of step up, steps down, things like that. Depth jumps are a big thing that I do, and varying heights. Heel taps, I do a lot of those. Hip abduction with the mini band above and below the knee, I do a lot of that. Calf raises, tib raises, I do a ton of those every day for our accessory work, because again, people don't work those muscle groups, so it's easy to neglect, and you know that there's going to be weakness there. Once we advance to what the player needs from a single leg position, once they're cleared specifically to do single leg work, we jump right into it. We're a single leg, whether it's from just a curl or press, making the hip stabilize differently. If we're doing a single leg depth jump, again, start with a shorter box and advance up. If we are doing a single leg box jump on, if we're doing a single leg hop, whatever it is, if we do a counter step to a sprint or a jog, whatever they're cleared for, because we don't go jump once they're cleared for running. We're not just jumping straight into a dead sprint. We're gonna gradually build up, maybe 50% and up until we get to a point to where we feel comfortable with a full-on sprint. It's never slow walking the program, because my job, it is literally in the title, return to play. I need to make sure that you feel confident enough in your physical capabilities and the strength in your leg to get back on the field of play, whether you came from soccer, baseball, football, whatever the sport is. I need to make sure that you are physically ready. The other piece that goes into it is building this program is the mental piece. Physically, you'll feel great 3 weeks, 4 weeks, probably a solid month into my program, into my program. Realistically, in any well thought out program, you should, a month in, you should feel like, okay, yeah, I'll be ready physically to play. The piece becomes mentally, where are you? And that's where putting athletes in those, not so much game situations, but in positions that they will experience in the game. So whether it be a counter step landing to a sprint, or I am going to teach you how to get up off the ground a little bit faster, all those types of things, to where it's not just I'm just sitting here doing an overhead press, or I'm going to be seated and I'm doing a leg extension, whatever that is. It's not going to be, we don't train just those movements. I don't think I've done a leg extension with any of my clients. Actually, no, it's been with the band. But we don't do machines. We do, again, dumbbells, kettlebells, trap bar, barbell at some point, boxes, medicine balls, overhead carries. All these different things are going to put you in positions that are going to challenge you physically and mentally, and get you to a place to where you know, oh, when I get back, I am ready. Because I can tell you the story of one of our girls that came to me. She came from another facility. She had trained with them for 9 months, 3 times a week. She did our biodex test, came back. She couldn't squat without having her knees going to valgus. 9 months training with anybody, you should be solid at the hips and knees. You should be structurally sound coming out of that training for 9 months. That wasn't the case. She trained with me for 2 months. She was ready to go. She got back to practice to where she was cleared for contact, and she was getting complaints of being a physical bully out there, just because she came back physically strong and mentally confident in her abilities out there, and she's been going strong ever since. And she was cleared. She came to me in February, was cleared in April, and she's been back on the soccer field the entire time. So May put her at a year post surgery, and she's been back a few times since that point, and she's been playing soccer the entire time. I've had maybe 5 or 6 kids get cleared at this point with the program the way that I have it set in place. Again, I know I didn't go into any, like, this is specifically how it's set up, because there is no specific way of how it's set up. It is based upon, just kind of give you the shot here. If you can pause the screen here, you can kind of see what that protocol looks like here. But it's built around that. And it is a little bit, obviously I can show you the back page here, but it's built around that protocol. And then I program the exercises in, because nothing is static in what I do. What I do is fluid. The reason it's fluid is because athletes progress at different points, and then sometimes consistency plays a part into it. I have athletes, now everybody who's been cleared, they've come in 2 to 3 times a week into my program. In addition to what I'm doing, they are training outside of what I'm doing, whether it is, if they run cross country, they're running on a regular basis. They're running anywhere from, my cross country runner, she's doing 3 to 6 miles a day, somewhere in that neighborhood, and she's doing a recovery exercise. But everybody else, they're going to the gym, whether we're training at home at the gym, their home gym, they're going to Planet Fitness, or they're training with their team on a lifting basis, but they're staying active. My kids who are not progressing at regular intervals, they are not consistent in what they do. And that's what the other piece that I've seen with the kids who reach a point to where they get cleared earlier, or stay on track to get cleared, to get back to return to play either full contact or return to play everything but contact. They are consistent for 6 months at a minimum. They are here 2 to 3 times a week and doing extra work outside of here, whether it's the playlist I send them to do, that's just smaller exercise they can do, or they are doing some type of running or some type of lifting, to where they are doing bench, squat, deadlift, hang cleans, things like that outside of here, when they are actually cleared to do those types of things. So mentality plays a part in recovery, from the aspect of your adherence to the actual program, and you actually being mentally strong to get back on the field. If you are not mentally, if you as an athlete, or you as the parent of an athlete, if your kid isn't focused on the actual recovery, it's going to be that much longer. If 6 months is where everybody's getting returned to play, cleared, either full contact or up to everything but full contact, tack on at least another 3 to 5 months for your kid if they're not mentally dedicated, because you have to be dedicated to the return to this process, because it takes dedication. It's not hard, because as you progress, the workouts become essentially regular sports performance, with the caveat of we are going to make sure we're even smarter based upon we don't want to re-injure anything while we're here. What we're doing, I think what I'm doing, specifically what I am doing here, I think it's the best in the region based upon how I approach it. It's my own methodology of how I do it. I pull in ideas from different places I didn't think of this standpoint, and I'll bring it in. And typically it's based upon just regular training for athletes. Oh, okay, I can pull this in for my return to play kids because they'll benefit, and I might scale it based upon if they're in weeks 12 to 16, is going to be scaled back. But if you're 16 and beyond, I may give you that full exercise, and then if you're crushing it, I'll advance it. And that's the whole thing. You always want to have your base exercise, your regression, and your progression, because you're going to experience that. These kids are not coming in here with the mentality of, okay, I'll get better at some point. I have kids coming in, their goal is to play this upcoming season. So my job isn't to say, okay, well, you need to slow down a little bit. As long as it's safe, it's pedal to the metal to get you where you want to be, and then I let the physicians make the final call. Well, you and the physician make the final call on what you're going to do. My job is to get you back on that, get you game ready, and that's what I do. Period, point blank. I do what I do because I put the time in to figure out the program. It is ever changing, because each day is going to be a little bit different. And I think that the variety and me throwing a lot at you in a smart, thought out way is going to get you across that finish line and get you up to your next goal each time. Because everybody that's gone in for their retest with the PT or their visits with the PT, they're scoring progressively better every time they're going. It's not, okay, well, I went and I scored a 93 on this test this time. 3 weeks later, I'm back down to an 80. It's next week, I scored a 93 this week. Next week, I got a 96. This week, I got 100% on everything, and now I'm fully clear. That's how we're working over here. We're trying to get everybody where they want to be in a timely manner to make sure that you are not wasting your time coming in here, because at the end of the day, it is return to play, and we're going to get you back on the field. So that's all I got for you today. I might revisit this topic because it kind of go a little bit more into the nuts and bolts of what I do, and kind of give you some examples of some programs of a programming day of what it looks like, to kind of show you the ins and outs of how we start. Well, actually, I can give you that now. The way I lay out my program, we start with some mobility at the beginning, maybe 3 or 4 exercises where we're on the ground. We start that. It can be Z-sits, bird dog, single leg, single leg kicks or whatever it may be, leg sweeps, that type of stuff. We get that stuff going, then we hop in and we go our active mobility, walking knee hugs, quad pulls, that type of stuff. Whatever it looks like for you, we do about maybe 10 exercises built into that, and then we hit the ladders. I know there's a ton of people out there in the world that hate the ladders, because especially if you're talking about speed, but I use it for dynamic movement and teaching them about getting my athletes back to moving their feet, because again, we're in this time frame where kids are not moving their feet, they're not working on the agility pieces, and for these kids, all I'm doing to start them off, it might be as simple as walking high knees if you're in that 8 to 10 week range, but then we're going to advance it to bunny hops. Then we'll hit, once you get clear for single leg, it'll go single leg, and there's a lot of different movement patterns that we do with the ladders. And then we get into the body of the workout, and that can look like anything for the day. It's going to be heavy on the lower body and heavy on the core. There's also going to be some upper body movement that's going to be built in. And then after we finish our body of our program, and then we'll hit our accessory work. Accessory work, especially early on, is going to be simple calf raises, where we're doing what are we doing? I see it in my head. We are doing Calf raises, we're going to do 1,000 holds for 10 reps, and then 20, then another 10 where we're going up and down at a regular pace. We're going to go tip raises. We might hit some good mornings for that low back. We keep it simple for upper body, shoulder shrugs, bicep curls, kick and overhead extensions, maybe kickbacks. Just that basic general accessory work to shore up the small pieces that are not the nuts and bolts of our main program. But yeah, again, like I said, I may touch on this again in a different, and then probably the next episode, maybe in the next couple episodes, just because I want to lay out kind of maybe a full day of training, maybe even a week of training to kind of show you what my thought processes are when I plan out a Monday, Wednesday, Friday program for the kids that are coming in. But again, be smart in what you're doing. Look at the full athlete, look at the needs of their sport, but also look at the needs look at what they need to actually just be functional as a regular human. Address the entire athlete, because if you just focus on the ACL, you're never going to get them back on the field the way they need to be, and you set them up to re-tear that same ACL, or what I've learned during this whole process, you set them up to tear the other ACL. So be smart, be thorough, address the full athlete, be able to start with your base exercise, be able to regress, be able to progress, because you might have a group of kids that are coming in that are all different stages, and you can't just have one program out there. Be versatile, be dynamic, be fluid, be good at what you do, train like you mean it, maximize, improve, excel. I'm Coach Walker. I'll see you in the next episode.